I'm just about to reveal the strategy that all of these content creators on Patreon are using in order to make more than $200,000 on an yearly basis. So let's get started. Now guys, I'm just gonna suppose that you do know how Patreon works. It's a fairly popular website and it's used by a lot of YouTubers in order to post exclusive content for their subscribers and get even more money. This is just a way for content creators to maximize their earnings. So apart from the ad revenue that you generate on YouTube, what you can do is put in some extra effort, create some sort of exclusive content for your subscribers, and really maximize your profits by leveraging Patreon. And that is what all of these 250,000 creators are doing. Now, of course, each and every single channel will have their slightly different approach, but let's not get lost in the technicalities. Now, personally, I may not be the biggest fan of this YouTube channel, but from a business standpoint, they really knew how to take advantage of Patreon. So they're just posting their regular content on YouTube channel, which is already a little bit out of the ordinary if you ask me. But then for the people who want to see an even more raw version of that content, you can connect to their Patreon, pay a certain amount of money, and join their community. And as you can see, it is all about foul language and sensitive topics that are not necessarily allowed on YouTube. So this is not content that would get monetized on YouTube, generally speaking. That's why they decided to also set up a Patreon for their hardcore fans. And again, this is not just an isolated case. There are so many different content creators that do the same exact thing. The subscription for this community is not insanely expensive. They won't ask you to pay hundreds of dollars every month. Most of the times, the subscription price is really decent and reasonable. $8, $16, $24, but it's a numbers game. This channel has got over 1 million subscribers. Let's just say that only 5% of those subscribers join their Patreon. Let's say that it's only 1%. That is 10,000 people. And even if all of those 10,000 people go for the cheapest package, that is still $80,000 a month off of Patreon alone. So you can really see how the numbers add up. Now, Patreon is a third-party website, but if you don't necessarily want to set up a Patreon and instead you want to keep everything in one place, very organized, then you may want to create a membership structure on YouTube. And this is something really smart that YouTube has done in the recent years. They basically saw how Patreon was kind of stealing their content creators, and they tried to take advantage of that and get back some of the market share that Patreon was stealing from them. And let's just take a look at these two YouTube channels that I'm subscribed to on my personal account. One of them is Moon and the other one is Jake Tran. And both of them post kind of similar content. We're talking about all of these short documentaries on very controversial topics, right? But here's what they've done in order to earn even more money and in order to put out even more controversial content. You see, some of these topics, even though they are not that common, are still accepted on YouTube to a certain degree, meaning that YouTube is not necessarily going to take them down or demonetize them. From that standpoint, they're pretty reasonable, right? However, there are certain topics that go beyond that thin line, right? Even more controversial topics that YouTube does not really allow. And for the reason, both Jake Tran and Moon here have created a membership structure, which means that you can pay an extra $5 a month or so and get access to exclusive content. These are longer documentaries that would typically not be allowed on their main channel. And so at the end of the day, you can do a very similar thing as you do on Patreon on YouTube, thanks to their new feature. Not only that, but you become a member of the channel, which gives you some additional perks as well. But let's not get lost with the technicalities. Again, this video is all about Patreon and how you can leverage it. And so here's the answer for it. If you want to make money on Patreon alone, it is not really possible. Patreon is not necessarily a way to make money online. It's just a tool that will help you maximize your profits that you're already generating. So if you have a subscriber base, if you have a following that actually cares about what you're posting, then you can use Patreon in order to leverage that even further and get some extra cash off of the traffic that you're already getting. However, if we dive a little bit deeper and try to understand what kind of channels, what kind of content creators pull it off on Patreon, we're gonna see some very interesting examples here. These are channels from each and every single one of the niches you can imagine. We're talking about sports, entertainment, or even news. And there are all sorts of different podcasts that have migrated to Patreon lately as well. And they have found great success with it. But now guys, here's the thing. Here's what most people do not understand about growing an audience online. You don't have to do this. If this is not something that you can relate with, if this is not something you want to do, You don't have to fool around in front of the camera for views. That is not necessary. While some content creators have had great success by showing themselves in front of the camera, trying to be entertaining, trying to have a bubbly personality and all that, some others did not need to. Jake Tran is an example of an almost faceless YouTube channel that is pulling it off. Jake Tran is not the main subject of the videos. People are watching them thanks to the topics and not the person narrating them. He doesn't have to show his face, and lately he's hired a bunch of voiceover actors in order to replace him. And Moon is another great example of a faceless YouTube channel. People are not watching these videos because of the content creator behind it. They are watching the videos thanks to the topics and the narration, the delivery, the script, the quality of the video altogether. And here's another great example. And this one has also been insanely successful on Patreon. The channel is called JCS Criminal Psychology, and they're basically doing breakdowns of all of these criminal encounters, right? They're breaking down all of these interviews. And to be honest, these are some of the most engaging videos I've ever watched. That's why they're getting millions of views on each and every single one of their uploads, and they're only posting once a year or so. But that is on their main channel, because apart from the YouTube channel, they also have a Patreon. And as you can see, even though they are posting just as rarely on their Patreon too, they are getting thousands of likes on each and every single one of their posts, which means that they have thousands of members, which just goes to show that you don't necessarily have to become a star or an influencer to pull this off. And so guys, here's the bottom line. If you can find something that you are genuinely passionate about, then you can go ahead and create a YouTube channel that is focused on commentary, just like this one. And if your content is good enough and you genuinely enjoy that process of creating content and posting it, then you've got everything you need to grow a subscriber base. And that's when you should also start a Patreon. Once you've already generated a decent following, once you already have people who care about the content you're posting, that's when you should take it one step further, sign up for Patreon, and start posting exclusive content to maximize your earnings. That's how this works. And that is how all of these people make over $200,000 a year, which is insane if you think about it. Now, whether you want to switch to Patreon and take this to a third-party website, or you want to keep things on YouTube and create a membership structure for your following, then that's completely up to you. I'm just here to provide you with the options. You can choose whichever strategy you prefer. But that is how you make money on Patreon in 2022 and beyond. It's a proven method. Thousands of content creators are already pulling this off. So I want you guys to consider it. And if you're already posting content, if you already have a YouTube channel, I would highly recommend that you try to take it one step further and perhaps set up a Patreon as well. That's it for now, and thanks for watching. Now guys, maybe this method is for you, maybe it isn't, but what I've come to realize is that you have to try out a lot of options before finding the one that actually does the trick. You need to find something that you actually enjoy doing, so you will not even feel like you are working. You're just doing something out of pleasure and getting paid at the same time, which makes the process even better. And on that note, what I want you to do is head over to my channel and take a look at the most recent uploads, and I'm pretty sure that you will find something that you like. And from that point on, it is just a matter of you taking action.